Hello, friends, and welcome to Your Daily Detroit. It is a beautiful day here in Detroit's North End. It is Thursday, May 19th, 2022. I'm Jer Stays, and today we're featuring one topic and one friend of the show, Julia Music from Ferndale Pride. She's across the table. Welcome to Daily Detroit. You haven't been here in a while.
I know, it's been a while. I'm so happy to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to have you because of the impact that Ferndale Pride has in the entire community. You know, Ferndale is such an important community for so many reasons, but it's also a major hub of the LGBTQ plus world here.
It is.
So Pride, June 4th, there is just a lot to talk about. I mean, first off, you'll see us. So that's completely, self-referential. I got to do that. But there's a ton of programming throughout that day that I think is just going to be welcoming to all kinds of people.
Yeah, we really have expanded our programming on the day of, and actually things even start before. We have things starting this Saturday that's kind of leading up to the big event. But on the day, there's just so much going on, starting at our main stage at 12:30 at our opening ceremonies, and then it'll roll all day long, all the way till 2 a.m.
Wow, 2 a.m. this year.
2 a.m. not on the streets. 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. is when the streets will end.
Okay.
But 2 a.m. is when we'll have our parties actually wrap up, which is different from October because things weren't staying open that late then.
Yeah, the world has changed, hopefully, for the better with people being able to be out and do things. Let's talk a little bit about the events leading up because we've still got a little bit of time to go. I know that you were saying that there are some things happening. Let's talk about it in case people want to get into the spirit before we talk about what's actually happening on the day.
This Saturday, we have a project called Small Packages over at the Detroit GT building on Walcott. And folks can come around 7 o'clock, check out some art done by local artists. They all got the same material. They all got a cigar box. And we said, do whatever you want with this. And the submissions are blowing my mind. So you get to look at those cigar boxes, bid on them auction style, and hopefully go home with some beautiful art that day.
So, small packages, but large ideas.
Large ideas, right. And then on the 31st, we have an event called Tie-Dyed in Ferndale Pride over at the Ferndale Project. So you purchase a ticket, you get a tie-dyeing lesson, a shirt, a beverage, and some other goodies that day. And then we actually, this year, the way Pride runs, Wednesday, June 1st is our first Wednesday, which is a big dance party. It started off as a lesbian dance party. It's kind of opened up to being more of a queer dance party now, and that'll be over at the 2:15. We also do our interfaith service that night. So people from all different religions are welcome to come pray with us, and we try to set a good intention for the Pride Festival through being supportive of all religious groups. And then on the 2nd, we have our Mighty Queer Art opening over at Affirmation, so you can see some great art. Thursday, I think some of your staff might be interested in Thursday. It's a bears party over at the 2:15 as well. So if you identify as a bear, you might want to come out to that party. And then the 3rd, we're actually able to bring back the Pride Prom at Affirmations, which is really special. So that's for students ages 12 to 18. It goes from 7 to 10 p.m. over at Affirmations Community Center, which is right downtown. And it's a chance for LGBT kids to have their own prom. And, some schools, I think this is a better alternative for a lot of kids. But also there are kids who just want to be able to party with all LGBT people. It's a pretty unique situation. And then there's a Love is Love party the Friday night before at the 2:15 as well. And then, of course, the day of starts.
I mean, this thing has grown so much. In case listeners do not know, how did this get started and become such a thing?
12 years ago now, Motor City Pride decided they were going to move to Detroit, which is a logical jump for them. Their event had grown, and they're called Motor City Pride. It made sense to actually have them in the Motor City. But in Ferndale, as you said, we're an LGBT hub of Michigan, and it kind of just felt like this important piece was ripped out of our city, and we didn't know what to do. So a few of us got together, Craig Covey, who is our former mayor, first openly gay mayor in Michigan, Greg Polica, who's on city council, Monica Mills, who worked for Matrix Mac Health, and myself. We're like, let's just do a pride. Let's see if we can do this. And the first year we did a series of 3 walks. We didn't shut down a street quite then, except just for the marches. And then the next year we shut down half a street, and then we've just been growing and growing with the intent to raise money for local charities while putting on this event. And we've been able to do that to the tune of over $300,000 in 12 years.
That's amazing. Why to you is Ferndale an epicenter of this community?
I can only go back so far. And I know there's a lot of history before I became aware of Ferndale. But when I got my driver's license at 16, it was the first place I wanted to go. There was the LGBT community center down there. I came out before Ellen came out, so I didn't really see any gay people except a couple times on the news, and it wasn't always the best story that was getting covered when LGBT people were on the news. But I knew about Ferndale. So I started coming down to the community center, and there's just this feeling of welcoming and warmth in the city. There's just people are embraced for the talents and skills they have, which is a little bit different than where I had grown up. And I think that's what makes it so warm and welcoming. You'll see rainbow flags throughout the entire city. Someone came down my block the other day. They're like, everybody on your block's gay. I'm like, no, they just also support us. There's a lot of gay families, but there's a lot of families that just want to support. So I think it's the people and that feeling of everyone's unique, and that's important.
Yeah, and that's part of why I think Ferndale and, more so even some of the areas neighboring it, the energy of Ferndale has been kind of growing beyond the city borders too.
Yeah, I definitely feel it in Hazel Park. There's parts of Oak Park I really feel like have that little flavor of Ferndale. Having Hazel Park have their first Pride Festival last year was kind of magical because it's just something I never thought would happen. So
you don't look askance at neighbors or others having Pride festivals?
No, I think I grew up in a situation where there was a Pride Festival that we drove to. It was Motor City Pride, and I've been able to watch that one grow and grow. But, none of us should have to drive a distance to see other LGBT people. And I think it's really powerful for some of the smaller cities, like Holly Pride. I'm going to be speaking at that event. And it must mean a lot for an LGBT kid in Holly to actually see other LGBT people being out and not just being in their house and quiet about the fact that they're queer. That was something that didn't exist when I was a kid. Like, I just can't imagine what better mental health these kids are going to be able to achieve by just seeing other people like them in the world.
Yeah, and you and I are similar in age, and it makes me think about how much things have changed. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more work to do.
Yes.
But how much things have changed and how important it is for people to see people like themselves in any community, really.
Correct. Yeah, it really is. I mean, it definitely, I had one out teacher in high school. I'm still friends with her to this day. And she made a huge difference for the 6 or 7 of us that were out. And now when I go into my old high school or any of the high schools and I go to the GSA meetings and there's like 60 kids and I'm like, my mind's blown because there were like 5 or 6 of us that were kind of quiet about it, but not too quiet. We wanted to do something, but it was not the right time in the world. And it's just a different world. And that's a good thing, I think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, let's get to the big day and the big event. June 4th, when do things get kicked off? And then, there's all kinds of things. There's booths, there's music, there's people getting married.
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything for everyone. So at 12:30, our main stage, our Ferndale Project main stage kicks off. And I'll be speaking along with our state rep, Jeremy Moss. And then our keynote speaker is Attorney General Dana Nessel. So that's really exciting to be able to hand the mic off to her because she's made some huge moves for the LGBT community. Our vendors then open at 1:00 and vending will happen throughout the party. But like some of those vendors have activities too. So there's a recovery zone where people in the recovery community can do activities all day. There's a children's area where kids can make art projects, climb a rock wall. So all sorts of things happening within our vending spaces. I know at your booth, they can come get pictures and your beautiful arch that you created. So it just depends what you want to do. You can adopt animals that day. You can get your COVID test. You can get a COVID vaccine. You can get STI testing. There's actually a free clothing swap for gender-affirming clothing put on by Affirmations and Stand With Trans. So there's a lot going on. And at 1:30, we get to those weddings. And we have one wedding this year on our Gage DJ dance stage. So at 8:00, that's when our vendors start to shut down, but our stages get really exciting because Toon Day will take the stage and they are just a force of nature. If you've never seen Toon Day, most magical shows you will ever see, it's like just transcends anything I've ever seen. And Toon Day is local. They're from Flint, Michigan, so that's exciting to have a local headliner. And then at 8:30 on our MKX Oils, we'll present Jace, DJ Jace M, over at the Gage Cannabis stage. And Jace is known for doing the circuit party scene in Detroit. So really excited to have him back. He's moved to Miami, so we're excited to have him in. And then Thoughts and Prayers will even do a pop-up circuit party at the 2:15 that night. So you can go all the way till 2 a.m.
I feel like engineer Randy will. But one thing I noticed in this is that you seem to have been able to put together a number of sponsors for this free festival. Has it been something that you've been finding sponsors more welcoming? Is it something where you've been seeing sponsors step up for you?
Yeah, about a year ago, I was really lucky. I had a conversation with Live Cannabis, and the he's very humble and shy and probably wouldn't want me to say his name on the air, but he's very generous. And he said, I really want to make the most impacts on this community that I can. And I had seen his work before. He passes out free food during Thanksgiving. He makes sure affirmations gets covered before other orgs. It's just very intentional, very intentionally helping the communities he's set up dispensaries in. He said, I want to sponsor this. And I didn't know exactly what that meant. He said, no, I want to sponsor the event. And so that coming off of COVID and that fear of this might not pop back, it was like, oh, not only can we do this, we can actually do it right now. And you'll see some changes because we were able to do a little bit more this year because of him.
And I'm looking forward to seeing that in person because, it was just a relief and so good to see you all in the fall coming out of all that. Things got tough.
Yeah, things got really tough. We didn't exactly know how to fundraise. I knew how to fundraise in different ways, but I didn't know how to fundraise without person to person because we'd done so many events as fundraisers. So we had to come up with creative fundraisers that didn't involve people being in the same room or sometimes even being near each other. My porch became a fundraising hub for different things. And then it was also just like getting creative with, okay, now that we know we can do so much on Zoom, what can we do that way and how can we make this still work?
Someone's hearing this and they're like, I've never been to Pride before. I don't know. What would be some tips for the event?
Well, one of my tips would be park off site and take the shuttle in. So if you park over at the high school on Pinecrest, or if you park at the Kulik Center, and both of those are on our website. So if you want the address, you can hop on over to our website and grab them. You can hop on a smart shuttle and the smart bus will bring you right into Pride. And then you don't have to pay to park and you don't have to worry about the parking meters in Ferndale. And then definitely wear sunscreen, drink some water that day, and pace yourself. It is a marathon, not a sprint. But definitely enjoy the day. Check out some of our vendors, eat at our local restaurants or our food trucks, and just kind of expect to spend time there and expect that you're going to get great entertainment. You're going to see people from all walks of life. The greeting officially that day is Happy Pride. No one says hello or nice to see you. Everybody says Happy Pride. It's almost like Merry Christmas for us that day. So that you'll hear that as soon as you arrive, and like people will be handing you beads and welcoming you. It's a very welcoming feeling when you walk into our event.
There are a ton of great restaurants in Ferndale, and you can look them up and see what's there. But also, you mentioned those food trucks. Before I let you go, I wanted to make sure to mention that because I know our audience specifically is going to want to know about food trucks and what you've been able to pull together this year.
Yeah, so in our dessert category, we have Divine Cookies. They do gluten-free as well as regular cookies. Sugar Buzz Bakery, which is an all-vegan bakery. So those are our two dessert areas, which are delicious. Del Rey Barbecue, which I learned about from your podcast, actually, is going to be with us. Delectable, Twisted Rooster, Hero or Villain, Impasto, McDogginit, which is our new hot dog truck, Maryland Smoothies, and that is all vegan as well, and then Satellite. And if you have not had the potatoes from Satellite, they are life-changing. Every time I get their potatoes, I have to share with all the children on our block.
I was drawn in by their logo alone. This looks pretty cool.
Their chicken wings and potatoes will blow your mind.
All right. Well, then that's definitely something I'm going to have to check while I'll be out there. And, we will be out there that day, the entire team, meeting people, talking to folks. We'll have our flower arch, among other things, because we're always up to something, Julia. We're always up to something.
Yeah. And it's a really great opportunity to meet any organization that you're interested in. So if you're coming to our Pride Festival and you're looking for a church or you're looking for a medical facility, they're all going to be there. And they're all people who focus on LGBT inclusivity rights or are LGBT run. And so that just makes it a little bit easier to feel comfortable with finding a provider medically or a church or just finding a podcast that you know is going to be supportive of you.
Well, you can check out more as things happen. FerndalePride.com. Julia Music, Executive Director, Ferndale Pride. It's so good to see you.
Thank you so much. Our social medias are Ferndale Pride on Instagram and Ferndale Pride on Facebook as well.
And we are done for today. Thank you so much for listening. Tomorrow, Devin O'Reilly will be in the co-host chair. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things happening around town as we do. So with that, I'm Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.